Thank you for joining us on Your School Channel, Cable 2.
'26, 2025 Winston-Salem Forsyth County Boards of Education meeting. I am Deanna Kaplan, Board Chair. I appreciate your attendance and I say good evening to our viewers on Cable 2. Please rise as we start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing as you are able for the invocation given by Board Member Susan Miller.
This is a famous or favorite, I will say, back to school quote from many teachers. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. And that is by Dr. Seuss. May we now have a moment of silence to center our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Miller. Our first order of business is the agenda review. Do I have a motion to amend the agenda to go back into closed after our open meeting is over to discuss a legal matter pursuant to the statutory provisions listed on the agenda?
So moved. Second.
So I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. That motion passes unanimously. At this time, we will hear public comments on the agenda items only. We want to have everyone's voices heard because of the large number of individuals who have signed up. I will be calling groups of 10 speakers at a time to line up. You will each have 2 minutes to speak with no exceptions to extend the time. The protocols that we have in place for public comments are to ensure orderly and efficient board meetings. Pursuant to the district's civility policy 1170, the board does not tolerate disorderly conduct or disorderly or disrespectful behavior. Please direct your comments only to me as board chair and not to anyone in the audience. We cannot talk about sensitive and private student or personnel information in this public setting. Once again, you have 2 minutes to speak, and if you have more to share, always know you can email us directly. So I will call the first 10 at a time. Mackenzie O'Connor, Emily Harrison, Kristen Watley, Missy Monacan, Karen Cuthrell, Julia Lopez, Riley Gordon, Jaleesa Smallwood, Stephanie Fuentes, and LeVar Brown L. If you all could come to the podium. And please state your name and the agenda item that you are speaking on. First, Mackenzie.
My name is Mackenzie O'Connor. Hello, WSFCS School Board. I'm a junior from Reagan High School. Today, I'd like to ask you to stop punishing our EC students. Take a school like Ashley, the first school I ever attended where test scores are lower. A school where they have an EC program, or a school like Parkland High that has a graduation rate of 74%. It seems that they receive next to nothing from you. And now schools like Ashley and Parkland are going to suffer further than they already have due to your decision to cut teachers rather than your own pay. 17% of my peers are EC. When you cut 160 EC teachers, you take away the opportunity for a decent education. It seems as though you pick what schools receive the most help based on test scores. In the 22-23 school year, the average rate of students attending Ashley at or above the proficient reading level was 12%. Frank Morgan Elementary, however, was at a 54% average rate. Esteemed board, why is that? Why do you show a preference for schools with good test scores, and why not move teachers from Morgan to Ashley, and why cut EC teachers from schools where they're needed? 9 board members means an altogether $189,000 annually. That's 3 to 4 positions that could be saved if you opted out of your pay for a year. Why do the 9 of you make 2% of what 160 teachers make annually when you don't care about us? You care about our test scores. The teachers care about their kids. You don't. This isn't your job. It's your responsibility as elected officials. Stop cutting our teachers and start cutting your pay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Emily Harrison?
I'm the mother of 2 EC children within the school district. Myself and so many other parents are angry about your decision to cut over 300 positions to people who did nothing wrong because of board fund mismanagement. We're angry because this has been going on for 8 years, and past and present boards of superintendents, including Emery, Harrison, and McManus, did nothing to address or look into this issue. This is literally the board's responsibility to review the budget every year. Some of you have been on this board for the past 7 years. How does one not see more money was going out than coming in? Yet we just get excuses. Putting faith in one person say so is not that smart. We are angry because interim Moore stated purchase orders were made to areas that funds were not available, yet still allowed. Nothing was done about it. The CFO left with no questions asked. No one was held accountable. If this was any other company, every finance department employee would be questioned and fired due to the negligence. No excuses. We are angry that the EC department was targeted for layoffs of the most vulnerable students in our district. We are angry because these AP and EC positions are advocates for our children. Will you stand up for them? Will you understand why they're having a meltdown in class? We're angry because TA positions are not high-paying jobs, but you cut enough to make your numbers work, reducing much-needed staff. If it was about money, you could have looked harder at selling buildings no longer needed by the school district or cutting more unnecessary high-paying central jobs. We keep hearing 600 central staff. Really? What duplicate central job does help to improve our schools? This is an option you should have discussed more. We're angry because 16.5% of students in this district have disabilities, yet 13% is state funded. This department should not be cut, yet you cut EC, meaning you don't care about 3.5% of our children. We are angry because you are our elected officials for this school district. You have a larger voice whether you want to use it or not. If you felt like you couldn't speak up, and not after on social media, you shouldn't be here. We are angry because you are paying firm after firm for consulting. With what money? $85,000 to pay firms to recruit for superintendents and to teach teachers how to co-teach? We're in a budget crisis. This is literally the salary for 2.5 TAs that you cut. We are angry that if you truly knew about this last spring, you didn't act immediately by furloughing Central. Teachers could have been looking for other jobs at the end of the school year and not worrying about it now. Student and teachers always are the ones to be punished because of you guys.
Thank you. Kristen? Order, please. Kristen Watley?
Hello, Board. My name is Kristen Watley. I'm an alternative licensed teacher at Paisley Magnet School. There's been a lot of talk about the budget, especially about EC teacher cuts, but I want to talk about those alternative licensed teacher cuts that you are making. I am not a teacher, according to you. I am not a teacher is farthest from the truth. I may not have gone to college to get a teaching degree, but my real life experience is a doctorate degree. I became a social worker helping the abused and mentally ill learn how to sign their name and use coping skills. I am not a teacher according to you, but my kids show more growth. That I can prove. They came to my middle school at a first grade reading level. I'm standing here at a middle grade's acceptable level. I am not a teacher according to you, but my kids say that my knowledge is power to use. My life stories show them how they use those educational skills we must permuse. My empathy to those considered forgotten brings them to class never discarded. I am not a teacher, according to you. But if that is the case, what does that make you?
Missy Monahan?
Good evening, Missy Minokian. Malfeasance is a word that also means wrongdoing. Sometimes it happens when a board member might be told to stay in her lane or don't ask questions, or someone saying that they get papers sent to them all the time and don't really look at them, that I heard in the last board meeting, or a superintendent spending millions without board approval. Those are all wrongdoings, in my opinion. But I'm seeing wrongdoings happening in the school right now when EC children are being placed into a larger classroom setting, and the teacher that is in that classroom is not trained to care for those children to the best of their ability. Can we say liability rather than ability? Because that's what's beginning to happen. September 25th, there's a loan repayment due of $113,000. By the end of that year, it'll be 1.35 million, maybe close to 14 million, but I don't know what all the interest levels are with it. But all I see right now is another rift coming upon us. And I feel that we're in dangerous territory with the whole community, with everyone. These teachers get up every day and struggle to make their classrooms a success. And I'm watching some teachers starting to cry. I'm seeing children feeling stressed already, and we're now into the second full week of school. Do we all have the answer? No, I don't think you do have the answer. I just see that RIF is going to happen again, and we have to go through this process right before Christmas. It's a terrible situation that we're in, and the can of worms have already been opened. But for me, I'm going to take those worms and go fishing and look for another board.
Karen Pepperell.
Tonight, even as our system grieves, history is also being made. To everything, there's a season. Tonight, we witness a change in the wind, a season where good, equity, and opportunity are taking root in East Winston. The approval of Balfour Beatty as the construction manager at risk for the new Ashley Elementary School is more than a contract vote. It's a turning point for our community. After decades of disinvestment in East Winston, you sit in those seats tonight are helping to bring a vision to life captured in the Ashley Dream Report, rooted in the hopes of families, educators, and neighbors. This is just not about a new building. It's about addressing inequities and creating opportunity. The partnership with Balfour Beatty has the power to generate $12 million contracts from non-minority businesses, create hundreds of jobs, and open apprenticeship pathways for our students. It means breaking cycles of hardship while building a school that represents excellence, equity, and pride in East Winston, long forgotten. When the vote is called tonight, let it be remembered as the night when East Winston's children were given more than a school. They were given opportunity, dignity, and hope, and the community was given economic justice for all. Sam Cooke said it best, "It's been a long time coming, but I know with your vote, a change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it will."
Julia.
Sorry. My name is Julia Lopez. I'm a junior at Atkins High School. My little brother is autistic. He is a part of the EC program, the same ones that y'all are trying to cut. This program is the only thing that is allowing him and his friends in that program to just have a normal school experience, just like everybody else. He's able to learn at his own pace, his own speed, and if it wasn't for that program, he probably wouldn't be where he is now. If you take that away, you are taking away the only chance these kids have of moving forward and learning basic necessities at their own pace. If you take this away, kids could be held back, kicked out, and overall their education could just be stunted because they're not offering the proper resources that they need just to learn. Y'all, teachers have bills to pay, mouths to feed, and gas to go to work. They need that money, and imagine having to tell your kids and your family that you lost your job because the Board of Education and Tricia McManus did you wrong. These children deserve a space to learn that we need to, and these teachers deserve to get paid and have a job. Tricia McManus needs to be held accountable. That's all.
Hi, I spoke here last week urging you not to vote for this cut. You didn't listen. It's disheartening, alarming, and quite frankly, it's disgusting. Watching you make these cuts while central office, your pay, the administrative, the finances, and positions remain untouched. Cutting your schools while not cutting any of these 600 central office members who have never seen a classroom, it's definitely a choice. None of these central office members have seen a classroom on its bad days. None of these members have seen classrooms and teachers when they are fighting to keep it together, to get those good test scores, to get the right funding for their schools, to get the right access for their students because they care. East, Glen, Mount Tabor, Parkland, Reagan, West, and today Atkins have all walked out in protest of these cuts, of you cutting our teachers, of you cutting EC programs. We as a student body understand that there are necessary cuts, and taking from one of the most vulnerable populations, it's unacceptable. These students do not have the learning applications that they need. I urge you to ask the state legislatures, to ask those outside of this very building to help aid us, to help aid their community. I want you to hear this before I close. I want you to think, before you go to sleep tonight, think about all the young EC children terrified to go to school tomorrow because they don't have the right learning applications, terrified that their safe adult might not be there in the morning. Think about all of the teachers looking over their shoulders, terrified that their job might not be there the next day. Think about how this impacts the students. Think about how this impacts all of us. I urge you to think about, instead of cutting those who are holding the system together, I want you to think about how you're cutting all of us.
Jaleesa Smallwood.
Hi, thanks for having me today. So I know I look like a high school student, but I'm not. This is my senior shirt from when I graduated from North Forsyth in 2010. Newton's third law of motion says every action requires an equal and opposite reaction, which we have unfortunately seen to be true with the recent RIF vote. Responses from certain board members have been rather insincere as it relates to the duty and responsibility that you chose to run for. Public comments and outbursts blaming the public or videos on social media acting like you deserve a cookie for doing what you signed up to do is not setting a good example for our youth. My mom always told me, you do what you're supposed to do, then you can do what you want to do. Did you ask yourself tonight, did you do what you were supposed to do? Did you ask questions during the audit presentations? I went back and watched them, so just note that. No matter when you came on this board, you had a responsibility that you did not uphold. Eat that, sit with that. The January 14th meeting talked about the Tyler Munis updates and that finance staff was duplicating efforts in the old and the new system. Where that's at? If they was duplicating work, the reconciliations should have been being done at some point. I don't see them. Y'all ain't seen them because I watched several responses where you all have said you were not given the information that you needed to make informed and better timely decisions. Very, very happy to do that. Submitting my application tonight. Just got my last letter of recommendation. Next time I'll go into 5 things every finance officer should do, including network, understanding their role, ask why, and be visible. I never saw that CFO. I never knew who he was. Never seen a lot of you either until recently. Thanks.
Stephanie Fuentes.
Good evening. I'm here because enough is enough. These budget cuts are tearing apart our schools. You're asking kids to learn without the teachers who inspire them and without the staff who keeps our school running. That's unacceptable. We are millions of dollars in debt, and our community deserves to know why. How did this happen? Who is being held responsible? Because right now, it feels like the students and teachers are the ones paying for mistakes they didn't make. Families are worried, students are losing the very people they trust, and all we keep hearing is cuts. But what we need to hear is accountability, transparency, and solutions. Our schools should not crumble because of poor money management. We refuse to sit down while decisions are being made behind closed doors, destroyed opportunities for our children. We need answers, we need change, and we need it now. Thank you.
Lakar Brown L.
Okay, today I want to talk about a critical issue facing our schools, and those are the proposed cuts to our exceptional children programs. I've heard arguments about budget shortfalls, declining enrollment, and need for efficiency, but I'm here to tell you that these programs should not be a target of budget cuts. Attacking EC programs is not the solution. It is a mistake that will have a profound, long-lasting consequences for our most vulnerable students. Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is not just a law. It's a promise that every child, regardless of ability, has the right to a free and appropriate public education. When we cut funding for EC programs, we are breaking that promise. We are telling children with special needs that their education is less important. We are telling families that their struggles are not our concern. This is the type of people you are. Cuts to public school EC programs do not need services to disappear. They just simply shift the financial and logistic burdens onto families when schools can no longer provide services like speech, occupational, or physical therapy. Parents are forced to seek and pay for these services privately. This creates a two-tiered system where only families who can afford private care can assure the child receives supports they need. As for low-income families, these services can become inaccessible, widening the achievement gap and creating a cycle of inequality. And this IDEA Act is a federal law that mandates schools to provide a free and appropriate public education to students with disabilities. This includes creating and implementing IEPs, which district cuts EC staffs. They risk of being unable to meet these legal obligations, which can increase due process hearings, litigation, and costly legal battles, which can end up costing the district far more than initial budget cuts. That's my end.
I'm next going to call the next 10. Dashell, James Maddox, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Commissioner Shay Woodbury, Reverend Alvin Carlisle, Erica Hall, Catherine Powell, Jackson Green, Peyton Owen, Rhonda Mays, Tanya Neal, and Amanda Anthony. If you all could please come up.
Hello?
Yes, hello. You may begin.
All right, okay, cool.
Mr. Maddox.
All right. What does it mean to change a life? I'd like you to think about it for a moment and remember that thing that altered your course. An attempt to, sorry, I have an alarm going off. An attempt to understand its effect. I ask you to do this so you understand when I say that teachers change lives. Day by day, they broaden our perspectives of the world, helping us discover and light the sparks of passion that will someday burn into the flames of success, showing us the darkness, but also how to turn on the light. As an EC and AP student, without my teachers, I am certain I would not be the person I am proud to be today. I realize there's a deficit and that money is tight, but it is not our fault. And it is definitely not this fault of the teachers. Now, you are in the unique position to make a decision that changes not one, but thousands of lives. I just hope you choose the one that keeps changing lives for the better.
Commissioner Woodbury.
Good evening, Chair Kaplan, Superintendent Moore, and the school board. I come here tonight to ask you to approve, of course, the construction management at risk for Ashley. I come very humbled tonight because now you all have the power to make the right decision. However, I sit on the very board that didn't make the right decision by the school district. I've tried to fight very hard on the county commission to approve a minimal property tax increase to save all or most of these jobs, but it didn't happen. However, Ashley Elementary is not political for me. I have before you all a presentation that I was blessed to share with the community before I got on the school board. It was May of 2018. Reverend Carlisle and I was in the community at Ashley, and we shared a presentation with families of Ashley. Ashley is about purpose and passion. For me, it is about a commitment to all children to have access to a safe school. I appeal to the whole board. I pray to God that I would have the courage to stand before you so humbled, because I do feel shame for not being a part of a commission that should have done what we needed to do to make sure we could salvage the hard work of educators in this school district. but I come because I know that Ashley has due time, and it is now. And so I appeal to all of you to raise your hand tonight for the purpose and the passion for all children in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County to have access to a safe and viable school. Thank you.
Reverend Alvin Carlisle.
Reverend Alvin Carlisle, Board Chair of Action for Equity. I'm here tonight to speak on the behalf, outgoing Board Chair of Action for Equity. I'm here to speak on the behalf of our organization who has been intently involved with the work around the construction of a new Ashley Elementary for some time now. It's been a long road. I came tonight to speak to the presentation, the recommendation, and the action item that you all have before you tonight to choose a CM at risk for the construction of the school. Action for Equity, along with our community partners, are in firm belief that Balfour Bailey is the company for us to serve as CM at risk, and also to continue to look to have 30% MBE participation in the going forth of the construction of the school. It is a great opportunity for us not to only build a quality school for kids and teachers that deserve it, but for maybe the first time, have a true community impact past just the school itself. And so I just ask that when it is time that you all will raise your hand and that you will do like the old Spike Lee movie said, do the right thing.
Thank you. Erica Hall.
Hi, my name is Erica Hall. I'm a parent of a WSFCS graduate, a current 8th grader, and I'm a teacher at Atkins, so I get to walk the halls with these amazing young people. I'm frustrated with the events of late, but nothing I'm going to say is going to change anything. So let's make sure we don't end up in this position again. One of the major findings of HIL or Hill Consultants, whichever it is, was that high turnover in leadership contributed to overspending. I am proposing that the new superintendent and executive cabinet be required to be a resident of Forsyth County by August 1st of 2026. Our leadership needs to live and work in our district. If they have school-age children, they need to send their children to WSFCS. Those determining the future of WSFCS should be eligible to vote for our school board, our county commissioners, and the General Assembly members that represent our county. This doesn't mean our search should not extend outside Forsyth County, only that they be willing to relocate. I also propose that as part of the RIF, we discontinue travel allowances for all employees. If we cannot afford APs, teachers, TAs, and support staff, we cannot afford this executive perk. We just don't have the money. I implore you to take these suggestions seriously. Our students and staff deserve central office administrators that are invested in our community. Requiring executive leadership to live in our county not only removes the cost of travel allowances, but ensures that they are putting down roots in Forsyth, which will reduce turnover and foster continuity. Thank you.
Catherine Dow.
Hi, I am a student at Atkins High School, and I've been watching everything happen firsthand. As we are all aware, the decision to cut more than 300 teacher positions, most of which are going to be EC teachers, was made, forcing kids into classes they can't keep up in. I wonder how you would feel as a parent to have to tell your exceptional child that their favorite teacher, their safe space, their education is not a priority. All kids, but especially these kids, deserve to feel safe and have an environment where they can be themselves and be successful in their education. I wonder what the long-term repercussions are for these students and are already underserved children in this community. You may be cutting the teachers and saving some money, but no matter the amount, it will never, ever amount to the comfort and education of a student. I'm disappointed in all of the adults who have gotten us to this point. I want to see the adults that are making these decisions face the consequences, not the teachers, and definitely not the students. We deserve better.
Thank you. Jackson Green.
My name is Jackson Green. I'm a 12th grade student at Simon G. Atkins High School. In the past 2 weeks, my fellow students at Atkins have been extremely concerned about our current budget situation. We have been worried about whether or not many staff members in our schools will be here for week after week. due to the mismanagement of our finances from central office and the school board. The one thing we want to know is why. Why did this board and central office continue to ignore the fact that the consequences of their possible actions will be so catastrophic that almost every single high school in the county has held a walkout in process of the board's actions? This feeling is not just felt in Atkins. It is felt in every single high school throughout the county who are holding different forms of protest every single day. Yet, our school board and our administrations have paid little attention to this issue and have been either firing more staff to reduce our budget situation. So I urge you, the Board of Education, to do the right thing and fight against the firing of critical staff in our school system.
Peyton Owen.
Hi, I'm Peyton Owen. I go to East Forsyth. I'm a senior. And I was part of the walkout. I was part of that whole protest. And it just hurt seeing my teachers cry. It hurt seeing my favorite teachers that got me through stuff, that got me through my times where I was going through bullying, where I was going through any sort of problem. I would go to them. My counselor is at risk of being fired. And that's not okay. And I didn't tell y'all this, and I'm not gonna tell y'all my artist name. I'm an underground rapper in this area, and yeah.
Y'all done shot yourself in the hand again. Use our teachers as bandages. 50 million wonder where it went. Made a mess, you gon' stand in it. Y'all detached from society. I ain't stupid, don't lie to me. Just a student can't fire me.
I'm dropping that on Spotify. Thank you.
Rhonda Mays.
Greetings, Chairwoman Kaplan, the board, and Interim Superintendent Moore. I'm Rhonda Mays, and I'm here speaking about the budget and Ashley. We are in a new reality for educators, students, families, and the community at large. I have a few questions for you. What are you as a board doing to retain the students who are currently in the district and increase the student body district-wide? With the decrease in the number of students comes the decrease in funding to the district and the likelihood that the financial struggles will continue, and it will also be necessary for more rifts. What is the plan to provide students with their necessary services? With the cuts to our EC staff, our students will not get the services that they have traditionally received. Have you asked the state to forgive the increase that will be added on to any unpaid debt, that interest? Have you asked them to forgive that so you don't have to pay that? Has a plan been created to support the schools who are losing administrative support? I've been hearing from a lot of different staff here in the district that fights have been increasing because they just feel like they don't have the necessary staff on site to help. Thank you for the continued support for the new Ashley. I look forward to seeing your vote this evening. The community is here, willing and waiting to support this district. You have to be transparent concerning the needs. We want this district to rise out of the dust for the sake of the children, the educators, and this community. These cuts are deep for everyone, including Forsyth County. We will all continue to feel this. It will take us all working together to better our future. Thank you.
Tanya Neal.
Good evening, Chair Kaplan, Superintendent Moore, school board members, and constituents. I'm Tanya Neal. My husband Marcus and I have served the school district for the past 20 years. I'm a school counselor. We have 4 children and 2 grandchildren that have gone through this district. I'm here to share my concerns about budget decisions made concerning APs, EC, and our alternatively licensed teachers that have shown up, been tried by the fire, and returned to serve students daily. We are already feeling the devastation and fallout from the recent rift. Rifted and anxious staff members feel the need to actively pursue alternative employment just to sustain basic needs of housing and food while trying to maintain their sanity. We just came off of summer with no pay, not anticipating to be laid off. Staff members are stopping by my office for encouragement, hugs, and to shed tears daily. EC teachers and EC assistants are vital in empowering our most vulnerable students' hope for academic achievement and eventually self-sufficiency through strengths-based lenses that not everybody has. It's not enough to drop by and stop to see our schools, look at our plight, and think that you have an understanding of the who, what, where, and why EC, APs, alternative licensed staff cannot be further reduced. Working in a high-needs school, feeding and peritoneal care for children who are sometimes combative because they cannot verbalize their needs is not for the average or the inexperienced, and definitely not the untrained. Spend a full day at either the Special Children's School, the Children's Center, Carter Vocational, or Lawrence. Staff already have to push 2 wheelchairs at a time and pull another ambulatory child while navigating transitions to the cafeteria, encore classes, fire drills, etc. Since you have a transition list of all those who will be reassigned, where they're going to move, please move them now into their new roles because we are already drowning. Many of these demoted employees will not remain, and we will suffer this again. We're already drowning.
Good evening, board. I just want to, I don't know how to say it, but I just feel that since August 12th, I've been in wait. I'm an EC teacher at Wiley. I know one of my APs got the notice, but I just feel that it's unfair for us, any of us, to be sitting like we're dangling, waiting for somebody to send us the email notification that your job has been cut. I feel like this is what, week 3? And some of us are still waiting. If we're getting cut, please be considerate because we have a heart and it wears on us. It's sucking our life. I'd much rather know that I've gotten cut than to sit and wait every single day looking at emails day in and night. Losing sleep, losing my appetite, everything, just to say, oh, I don't know, we haven't heard anything. And I've heard that people have actually called and asked HR, have they got their job? Do they still have a job? And they're like, we'll notify you by email. I don't think that's fair. I think you guys need to step up and do whatever is fair. For one, stop the cuts. We are needed. We are valuable people in the buildings, in the classrooms. And even though I feel emotional, I feel like I'm all cried out. I've cried for days, I've cried for nights. And the saddest thing for me was on the 12th to come to this meeting, on the 13th to greet children. To me, that made no sense. I felt like that you guys knew, whoever you are, knew that these cuts were coming over the entire summer. It would have been much better for us to have known versus going in, setting up a classroom to only be told your job is gone.
I'd like to call the next group of individuals: Al Jabbar, Alan Daniel, Peter Antonazzi, Marty Maddox, Michelle Jordan, Kelly Davis, Aiden Morgan, and Ian Morgan.
Good evening, Board Chair Kaplan, Interim Superintendent Moore, board members. It's certainly an honor to be before you. I haven't been here in a long time, but I usually try to come with some wisdom. In the community, there's an outcry, and that outcry comes from one of my favorite albums by Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. As a 77-year-old product of East Winston, I have fought for elementary school in East Winston, which we have not had for over 50 years. Ashley moving forward has nothing to do with our present predicament. So I ask that you approve the selection of a construction manager. As I said, I always try to come with some solutions. And as we're looking at cuts, I want you to think about this. In Mecklenburg County, in Gifford County, they have outsourced their legal department. You need to consider that in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. The need to have a staff legal department that we can outsource to other areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alan Daniel?
Good evening. I want to address a whole lot of items on the budget, on the agenda. The first one is to echo what was just said. You all had to know that this was going to happen. Why was it not done in June? Okay, we're paying $20,000 a month for a superintendent and $200 an hour for people that are supposed to be giving us good advice. It took them this long to figure this out. I think I told y'all the night after the audit how to save $6.2 million without cutting a single job. I hadn't heard a word said about cutting anybody's pay, but we're cutting teachers. So my questions, are last year's debts an item on this year's budget? Is that why we're having to cut? Mr. Watts said during the RIF meeting last Tuesday morning that y'all need to do this right. We got to get this right. You got it real wrong. Word on the street is six assistant principals got RIF notices over the weekend, and then they got a notice on Monday going, oops, sorry. Okay, seriously? Why are we talking about a construction manager? Why are we talking about calendar changes? Why are we talking about considering an ERG contract to pay people to tell teachers how to teach? You want to make Title I schools better? Hire teachers. That's the only thing that makes any school better is teachers,
Thank you.
not toys.
Peter Antonazzi.
Well, first, it's great to see all the Atkins students tonight and the East Forsyth wrapper. Nicely done. My comments are on the July 29 minutes. The minutes merely state Peter Antonazzi shared comments on items D and E. I can tell you with confidence, those 3 minutes of public comments were filled with more than letters of the alphabet. In fact, I said, the board chair and the former superintendent signed a brownfields land use agreement without informing or gaining the consent of the full board. Is it so hard to quote that directly in the minutes? Later in that same meeting, another notable event occurred that was not captured in the minutes. Board member Kuhn asked general counsel if my prior corrections to the meeting minutes were completed. General counsel replied that the edits were not made since I did not send an email with the proposed edits. Perhaps I misunderstood the procedure in place. I did not realize that I was responsible for authoring and submitting a written record of the board's proceedings. Now that is clear, here are my minutes for the July 29 meeting, and here are my minutes for tonight's meeting. I have more than 38 seconds to share my disappointment on the staffing cuts caused by your financial negligence. I will share those thoughts in the second session of public comments tonight. Thank you.
Marty Maddox.
Hi, I'm here as the mother of 2 EC children. My son Dashel just spoke beautifully and passionately, and those were his own words. My firsthand experience watching my kids go from having great amounts of school anxiety and conduct issues with test scores far below grade level to being supported through the EC program and transforming. They are now high school students with a love of learning. They have leadership positions and are testing statewide in the high 90th percentile of all subjects. From below grade level and anxious to confident and excelling in college level classes, this is the help that the EC program has offered my kids. Without this important program and the amazing support from their teachers, I don't know what their school experience might have been. Without support systems like the EC program, children with learning differences are 2 to 3 times more likely to drop out of school and are 60% more likely to develop serious, long-term issues like academic avoidance, conduct disorders, anxiety, and self-esteem issues, along with other mental health, social, and emotional challenges. If we don't pay upfront to support these students, we will pay in the end with serious problems in our students and communities that could have been avoided. I'll end with a proverb. A child without proper education and supportive teachers is like a bird without wings, full of potential but unable to soar.
Michelle Jordan.
Hello, good evening. I'm going to come here to speak tonight on something that I think I have been saying over and over and over again. And it's the thing that I'm upset about with everyone here. It's the fact that we have been asking you, and I've been asking you guys, to please go to our NCGA and to sit here and fight for what our students needed. We've asked you guys to come up with a legislative agenda, and you guys haven't wanted to. Because you're afraid? Yes, we have. And people have not wanted to. So we have asked over the last few years for you guys to come up with something. Because we know what's going on here. We have Leandro, that is from 1997, when I was still in college. Coming out of college, no, actually I was teaching, but just out of college teaching. Still not $100 million to our school system. We have vouchers to the tune of $45 million. Our ADM that the state gives us is ludicrous. You know, we were funding it above. Just for people here in the audience to understand why APs are being cut, it's because the state gives us 50 APs, assistant principals, for 80-something schools. Never mind the extra assistant principals that we need at large schools like high schools. The EC ratios are ridiculous. None of this is what's good for kids. I don't care what the state says. You shouldn't care what the state says. We should all be fighting together. We should be working together. The school board, the county commission, people in central office, the community. We need everyone fighting for our public schools. I've been telling you guys this for years. You've all heard me say that they're coming after our schools and they're killing them. And here we are. Everyone is watching what's happening in Winston-Salem because they know what's happening here is what's going to be happening next in other communities. We have got to fight for our schools, and I am begging you to finally have the nerve, to have the courage to talk to Donnie Lameth, Kyle Hall, Jeff Zenger, Dana Caudell-Jones, who used to sit up here with you all. They're all voting for all of this voucher crap. Fight for our schools, please.
Kelly Davis.
Board Chair Kaplan, can you update the audience on what our legislative meetings have been?
So yes, we did meet in January with our legislative local delegation, and we did come up with a list of our legislative agenda. We did, and we sent it to them.
And we asked for another meeting in the spring, but we're denied, and we have a meeting coming up September
22nd.
22nd.
Yes.
We need to know that, though. Put it out there.
Okay. Thank you. Kelly?
Hi, Kelly Davis. I'm going to try to bring a little bit of a different tone up here. I'm sure you can all appreciate that. So I want us to think about this in a positive, right? Because I've read a book that's called Power of Positive Thinking. We have a problem. That's good, right? You know what's good? Everybody behind me. While I don't have anything prepared right now, I did send an email to all of you this afternoon. Thank you to Ms. Crowley for responding. I appreciate it. Hopefully you can bring the discussion back to your colleagues and you guys can talk about it. But one of the main topics that I brought up in my email was the idea of community-driven revenue. Look at this. Look at everybody in here. Community. You know what community is? Power, right? You can do this. You don't need and you don't want to hurt your community. That's not why you're here. That's not why you ran. And Ashley, yeah, we want that. Of course we do. But with what money? I want that. But I can't say, but with what? With what teachers? The ones you cut? I don't know. And I will bring this up again because I come prepared. I do email ahead of time. So I talked to Representative Caudill or Senator Caudill, whatever she's called, and she responded. And you know what? She is on your side. She will fight with you. And you know what I hear with that? We have a problem, that's good, right? We have somebody who is going to shoehorn their way, or you can get them to, because you can shoehorn your way into her inbox, and you fight. That's what you're here for. And to you, Ms. Moore, let's earn that $22,000 a month, okay?
Aiden Morgan.
Hello and good afternoon, school board members. My name is Aiden Morgan. I'm a sophomore at Reagan High School, and I'm upset about the lack of accountability on your part. I've seen on multiple occasions how my teachers are having to buy their own classroom supplies and how our teachers form very large parts of the community. Why are our teachers having to suffer because of your poor planning and budgeting? Thank you, board members.
Hello, I am Ian Morgan from Louisville Elementary. I'm here to talk about the budget. First, why? Why would you cut teachers off? And some students' favorite teachers are losing their jobs because poor planning steals with money. But really, why? Just my question, why? Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to thank all of our public speakers tonight, but especially I want to thank all of our students for coming to speak to us and making your voices heard. Thank you all so much. We are now moving into our discussion items. We have 3 tonight for discussion. First, Daryl Walker, our Executive Director in Facility Planning and Construction, will discuss the selection of construction manager at risk for Ashley Elementary project and the fee for the project estimation services.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board. It's an honor to be in front of you tonight, talk a little bit about this Ashley project that's looking like it's finally coming to fruition. We're happy to be here tonight. Talk a little bit about the process and kind of where we are. Our purchasing department, Winston Forsyth County Schools, sent out a request for qualifications. It's a document that you saw back in April 2025. There was a committee formed internally within the district of 5 Winston Forsyth County School employees, various categories of people within the district. There were 8 organizations that responded to the RFQ. Out of that 8, there was a scoring matrix that narrowed it down to 4 that went into the interview process. And then after the interview process, there was another scoring matrix done to select our final vendor recommendation that we'll bring before you tonight. I want to talk a little bit about why CM at risk. We've used various delivery sources on construction projects in the past, but this general contractor, CM at risk, allows you to get the contractor to the table early, allows the owner and architect to kind of aid in the design and the process and evaluate your systems and supports. It brings a solid number and aids in the cost estimation and value engineering component of the project. And then eventually we come to you with a guaranteed maximum price, known in the industry as a GMP, where any kind of cost risk falls on the contractor's responsibility. It also reduces some change orders and costs as well. And what's not on here is it also helps improve minority participation. And we've seen that through this bond referendum. So let's talk a little bit about the services tonight. The selection out of the final 4 was Balfour Beatty. I heard a little bit about that tonight. They were selected. Staff has completed some discussions and negotiation with the contractor. We'll talk about as we move forward towards the GMP. upon the Board of Ed approval, the staff and the project architect and CMR, we're going to review the project scope of work and finalize the construction cost. If that goes through, that meeting will take place later this week. And then one of the things that we really wanted to do as well, ahead of the GMP, was I really wanted to get a firm estimate, because I've come to you 2 or 3 times with a number that we've kind of thrown out there, and we felt like we needed a third-party number to bring to you prior to the GMP to actually see if we need to value engineer any further before we bring you that final price. That estimated cost to do that, as you see, is before you, $46,204. Those funds are available and would be requested from the additional 2023 2/3 bonds that the commissioners provided. You may remember there was a funding pot of 2023, 2025 2/3 bonds funds. This board has kind of said that they will allocate those funds towards the Ashley project in the future, and that we would request those funds as part of that project as we move forward, if you were to approve that and take action tonight. And it's kind of brief, but with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Yes, Board Member Watts.
So, Mr. Walker or Superintendent Moore, would you please explain to us that these funds are set for a restricted purpose and may not be used for our current budget situation?
So as it stands right now, let me give you a little history just so the general public understands. Originally we talked about having a bond referendum. In 2024. And then it was decided, the commissioners kind of decided that I want to push that back to 2028 because of some of the tax implications around that. So with that being said, the county then came back and said, well, we're going to provide some additional funds prior to the 28 bond. And so the 2023, 2025, and then there's another issuance in 2027. This board at the time approved the 2023, 2025 funds to go towards the Ashley project. And so tonight, the request for these particular funds would be out of that. I couldn't tell you if they could be used for operating. At this point, it's been approved to use for the project. I would assume another vote would have to take place if that were the fact. Ms. Moore may have more.
It cannot be used for operating expenses.
Yes, Board Member Crowley.
Mr. Walker, I'm excited about this project coming forward. This was promised by the school board of 2012 and was also promised through the 2016 bond with the money earmarked for land for a new Ashley. So I think that's it's good that we're finally moving forward on this. My question is about where is Balfour Beatty based?
So I think Lee Littleton's here. Lee's their local. Lee lives in Ardmore and with Balfour Beatty. I think the office that you're working out of, Lee, are you working out of the Charlotte office? Raleigh office.
Okay.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just wanted to make sure with this being taxpayer dollars that we are doing as much as possible to reinvest that in Forsyth County.
I will say in their proposal was very clear. There's a section in the proposal about creating local jobs, local minority participation. They had a really solid response to that in their proposal of using local subs. And so that was a big piece of this proposal and a big proponent of why we chose it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Board Member Kuhn.
And excuse me if I missed this, but we're going to be positive and say that this is going to happen, and then what's the time frame? Like, if we pass this today, what happens next? This time frame?
Yeah, so we're going to meet, if this passes today, we're actually meeting Thursday to talk a little bit about that next step of getting an estimate to look at if we need to come back to you with any value engineering based on the money. There's several different funding sources to this project. It's not just the two-thirds funds. You may recall there was some land that we've surplus and that we're going to sell that may go towards it. There's some funds within the lottery repair and restoration account in Raleigh DPI that we're looking at as possible funding sources. So we're just trying to make sure we can get a good estimate, pull this all together. We'd really like to come back with a GMP with you sometime by the end of the year, get started, kind of go from there, and then we've got about an 18-month cycle upon construction of project at that point.
And if I could add one more piece to that, just because I know there'll be questions. The additional funding sources that he's mentioned that could be added to existing two-thirds bond money that has already been decided upon, the repair and restoration, the sale of property, those are required to be used for capital projects as well. They could not be moved to operating.
Yeah.
Board Member Miller?
Well, my questions are centered around the capacity levels. That's been a constant concern of mine since I started on the board. Many of our schools are at 50% or under. Mr. Walker, do you happen to, what is the capacity level of the new building, and what is the current Ashley daily average membership?
So the current design capacity is 600 for the new Ashley.
Okay.
I do not know what this year's numbers are at this point, quite honestly. I have to look around the room for some help if there is some. I haven't seen the average daily membership for this new year.
I think it's in the 200 range. Does anybody know that number?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on my desktop.
That was my question.
Yes, Vice Chair Bohannon?
So just some clarifying questions. So this is the same Balfour Beatty that's like headquartered in the UK, like the big company Balfour Beatty?
I'll be honest with you, I don't, is that, is that your corporate, Lee?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big corporation.
Right. Okay. And so is there, with the guaranteed maximum price, sorry, I'll pause. Do y'all have? 378 is the answer to the question.
Thank you.
That's the current enrollment? Okay. So when we get the guaranteed maximum price, will we also get the committed MWB participation with that?
We
Or is-
will. We'll have that as well as the construction management fee, and everything will be rolled up and ready upon that approval. That'll be the final number to start the project.
Well, and is it possible for us to be able to see that delineated out between like minority and women participation, like not as like one percentage, but as two separate percentages?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then the last question I had was around, in terms of, because you mentioned there might be the possibility of value engineering based on kind of what we have available. Will the board be able to see the kind of guaranteed maximum price without the value engineering so that we can make a decision on whether or not we want to do the value engineering or not?
Yeah, we will definitely come back to the board and with just recommendations, and the board can make a decision, and we'll go from there. That decision may just kind of determine, if there's a gap in funding and what our next steps would be.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Next, Kathy Moore, our interim superintendent, will discuss the calendar change request.
Thank you, Chair and board members. So it seems that we can't get them on our screen, so I'm gonna try to look two places here. I've got it here on my iPad. So the purpose of looking at a calendar change that we were going to ask the board for this evening really is about a response to principal requests from last week. We met with principals on Thursday in a virtual meeting to talk about the reduction in force protocols that would be going on in their buildings, and they had questions about some things. One of the things that came out of that meeting was a transition day on September 15th. So the last day for employment for employees who are RIFT will be September 12th. That's a Friday. September 15th is a Monday. And the principals were interested, as you see on the slide, they wanted to provide staff time to really transition based on the staff that would no longer be there, to ensure that they were looking at student schedules, teacher schedules, co-teaching schedules, support, administrative duties, all of those kinds of things, and have time to plan as a staff to do that. And then, so the purpose then for the next slide is that they wanted an in-person PD day. District will provide support if the schools want it, around some guidance on how to do that work, or based on the needs we see, based on the impacted number of staff. We also have some staff that might be relocating during this time, so that is all a part of what would happen on this day. So the options for the 15th, there were three there were really two options, but we added the third one because we wanted to give all of the options out there. A and B both changed September 15th to a teacher workday. But in option A, we flipped the day with October 14th, which was a district PD day. And we would no longer have that district PD day because it would become a regular student day. October 13th is already a school workday, so part of the issue, I think, with principals not choosing option A would be the fact that they wanted to keep the district PD day on the 14th, and for families that have already made plans for that longer weekend, which is possible. Option B does have September 15th be a teacher workday, so in both option A and B, they are both teacher workdays, students would not attend, but they would use banked time that the district has available to not have to make up that date. And then you could leave the current calendar the way it is with the 13th and the 14th in October as student days off, and the 14th remains a district PD day. We also gave option C as an option to principals, which was no transition day at all if they felt that it wasn't necessary. So the summary from the principal, the feedback, we surveyed them on these options. 60 out of about 80, I guess we have 80 principals, 81 that responded. Overwhelmingly, for those that responded, they preferred option B, which is to make September 15th a teacher workday. It would no longer be a student day, but they would keep the October 14th and the rest of the calendar the way it is now and use banked time instead. This does come to the board as a recommendation for approval. Changes in calendar do require board approval. So we are asking that you approve option B as a teacher staff workday for September 15th for transition support for students and staff using banked time. State statute does require that all of our calendars, all of our schools must meet a minimum of 1,025 hours of instruction. Option B would mean that our district is providing 1,062, so we still well exceed that amount, which means we have additional banked time available should we need to use it later in the year. It does move the calendar from 177 student to 177 student days from the current 178. And it does require board approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Yes. Board Member Brown Gaither.
I just wanted to ask, I see that it was 60 responses, so that's 60 of our 80 principals responded to it.
Correct.
So 75%.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And it was a quick turnaround time over the weekend to Monday, so.
Vice Chair Bohannon.
So I see we have some principals in the room. Are any of them willing to come and kind of speak with your permission, Madam Superintendent?
Certainly. I hope they voted. Rock, paper, scissors. Here comes Colin.
Good evening, Board. So you just want to hear my feedback on it?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
So I
what we
think definitely everybody obviously wants that day. Everybody needs that day. Whether or not it's with trading in the October day, I think is, for me, fine, whichever way we went. But obviously, the majority of folks would like to see us just use that day as a teacher work day. I think it's important. I think there's going to be a lot of transition, a lot of sit down, particularly when you talk about EC. There's a lot of need for folks who are coming in possibly new to the building to be looking over those IEPs, working with those teams, some of which may be smaller. and to welcome anybody new also that's coming on board, make sure they know what they need to do. So I think it's a good plan.
Thank you, sir.
Good? Yep.
Thank you. Any other principals who would like to get up and speak? Okay.
Chair Kaplan?
Yes.
I just want it to be clear that students won't come to school that day.
That is
Because
correct.
there was nothing in the thing that said, it talked about being, student planning. There was a lot of the word
yeah.
student in this, but it didn't say, you don't come to school and parents are going to have to find a safe place for their kids
That
that
is,
day.
it is a teacher workday, so students would not be in school. We have reached out to our providers in the community. Several have responded that they think they are fine with capacity. Some haven't responded yet. It is a quick turnaround, as we just met with the principals on Thursday, and then this request came forward. But if we wait even later, that's even longer in terms of planning, so.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Superintendent Moore will now give us a budget update.
Thank you. So as we're starting over again with 24-25, giving summaries again around where we have been, the three big vendor payments, I don't think this slide has changed in a couple of months now, are still due a total of $16.1 million, which includes ESS, the Substitute Management System, SSC, a custodial contract services group, and then Forsyth County for the SROs and nurses. We owe DPI $11.3 million. That is down from the original projected 18, down from the subsequent projection 13.7. I'll tell you in a minute why the 3.375 is in parentheses. And we owe child nutrition $2 million from the board decision in June to appropriate funds from the child nutrition fund balance up to, I think, $6 million. We have appropriated $2 million at this point. So all of those are items that we owe. For the amount that we owe DPI, the 11.3, they have provided a grace period for payment until September 20th, 25. Once we hit September 20th, 2025, any amount that has not been paid to DPI will incur an interest penalty of 1% per month. The board did appeal the application of the interest penalty to the State Board of Education, requesting that it be waived. The hearing on this request with the committee of the State Board of Education will be held on September 2nd. And I anticipate that the State Board would likely vote on September 4th, whether or not to approve that request. Continuing on 24-25, on August 14th, the county commissioners approved the district request for flexibility and additional funds of $8.5 million. A portion of that $8.5 million does have to be sent to charter schools, but payment will be sent to DPI this week. The county appropriation of the $8.5 million was with the stipulation that it would be used to pay down the debt at DPI. So there you see that our remaining debt to DPI would be about $3.375 million. And that's why the number was in yellow on the slide before. So we take from the 8.5 the portion that we need to pay to charter schools, and then the remaining amount we pay to DPI. We anticipate that we will continue to owe DPI $3.375 million, which will begin to accrue interest on September 20th, depending on the decision the State Board makes about waiving the 1% interest penalty. Our staff continue to be in communication with IRS in review of documents that have been submitted and forms. In the middle of all of this, we do have a transition in the payroll director in payroll, and we do have someone who has stepped in who is a retired Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools employee who has stepped into that role and has picked up this work with the IRS. So now I'm gonna repeat myself a little bit. And really this is about clarity and folks who continue to want to understand where this $42 to $46 million number is coming from. So this is the budget deficit for fiscal year 24-25. It is a debt that we owe from 24-25. 16.1 million, as I mentioned earlier, is debt to 3 vendors where we issued contracts and didn't pay them on time. 11.3 million, which will be 3.375, is the amount that's owed to DPI for overspending in DPI categories for staffing. 2 million is the amount that we've already appropriated from Child Nutrition Services. So those 3 amounts, 16.1, 11.3, and 2 million, are debt that we owe. There's an estimated 15 to 20 million that we owe to ourselves. This would be funds in local capital and grant funds that were appropriated for non-grant, non-capital, overextended local use. We won't know exactly what that number is because we're still closing out the books from June 30th. We'll know that exact number when our audit is finalized in the fall. The funds that we owe will show as negatives in our year-end fund balances in the audit that we get in the fall. We will show negatives in those areas. So there will be audit findings in the fall. The 8.5 million will be applied to the debt at DPI. The request that has been made by this board to the local delegation, to the legislature, for financial support, that request to the legislators is for the 24-25 debt. That deficit from 24-25 requires either one-time funds in the full amounts of everything that we owe, one payment that sort of wipes out that debt, or a schedule of payments to pay down that debt. And the vendors have to be agreeable to that schedule of payments, determine whether or not they're charging interest on that schedule of payments, and then we have to have room in our budget for that schedule of payments. A little bit on fiscal accountability and some updates there. I've already reported that on August 14th, the Office of the State Auditor released their investigative findings report. The board did receive an overview of those report findings and recommendations and the district response and plan to implement the Office of the State Auditor recommendations. And I think this was breaking news at our last meeting. On August 19th, State Auditor Dave Bullock went a step further and requested that the State Board of Education and the Local Government Commission, which is the LGC, exercise its authority under general statute to jointly hire an audit firm to review the internal control procedures of Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. So this is an additional audit request that the state auditor is making that is within the jurisdiction of the State Board of Education and the Local Government Commission. We have not heard anything on this. I do know that the State Board has sent some letters clarifying, wanting to, they need to meet with the LGC. The LGC really is who owns sort of the ultimate authority here, but there is a joint piece that's available through legislation for them to call for this additional audit. And I anticipate that the State Board and the LGC might have something that they discuss about this at their September meeting. But ultimately, we will be informed by the State Board and or the LGC what the steps are that they are taking in response to the state auditor's request to have another external audit on our internal control procedures. So. Turning to the opening of this school year, 25-26. Couple of items on Tyler and Red Rover, as some questions have come up there. The Tyler transition is ongoing. The pieces that are already in title are budget, accounts payable, accounts receivable, purchasing, and general ledger functions. Those are all live in Tyler now. The next stage of Tyler that needs to be implemented will include the payroll and the HR functions, which includes recruiting, benefits, personnel actions, employee self-service. The payroll and HR functions were scheduled to go live in January. We determined that we need to move that timeline to April 1st. And this is about the current work that we're having to do in HR and payroll around the RIF that was approved by the board, the transition in staff in HR and payroll, and needing to set aside the time for training and implementation. We've got a sandbox environment already, but we've got to have time to transfer all of that information also from the old AS400 into Tyler. So we've moved the implementation date here to April 1st. And we did do that in consultant with Hill as well. We have also implemented Red Rover for substitute management, timekeeping for hourly employees, and leave management. The sub-management is the only piece that's active now. We took over that piece when we no longer renewed the contract with ESS, the substitute management system. Other modules here are scheduled to launch mid-year. A couple of items around personnel and non-personnel budgets in 25-26. All hiring at Central Services remains frozen. All school-based hiring remains frozen. The target for releasing hiring freeze is mid to late September, pending final reconciliation of position allotments in schools. We've reported on this before. Local funds for instructional supply allotments at schools were released at 50% in August. The remaining 50% will be released mid-year, pending fund availability. So 50% was released in August. The intent is to release the other 50% later in the year. Title I funds at schools have not been reduced. They have the full allocation that was communicated to them in the process at the end of the year. Principals, however, are reviewing their Title I funding plans, and some revisions have been requested to that. So we are looking at what those requests are to determine what can be done. Moving to the reduction in force. The reduction in force policy, which is 4119.3, we enacted that policy due to financial exigency, financial need. The reason that the RIF policy has been implemented is the decrease in district revenues due to decreases in state allotments, federal carryover funds, and use of fund balance in fiscal year 24-25. All of these, the reductions in state allotments happened in July. The federal carryover funds, we determined that amount after June 30th when we closed the books. And the use of fund balance was appropriated, I think, by the board at the last June meeting. So all of these things happened end of June, beginning of July, and led to looking at needing to make reductions for the 25-26 budget. Staff reviewed the areas for RIF, including current levels of funding and relative standard of support for peer districts in order to come up with the areas that were recommended for the RIF. And on August 19th, the board voted to implement that RIF based on the staff recommendation. Next steps and support here. Communication to impacted staff and in-person meetings to administer the RIF letter have begun. They're not completed yet, but they have begun. Affected employees are receiving detailed transition information and support from mental health counselors at the meetings. We are paying the employer portion of COBRA health insurance for up to 1 year. The School Health Alliance is providing up to 12 free supportive counseling sessions for staff who may need this as a part of their transitions. We are also, and I never thought I'd say these words out loud, hosting a reverse job fair on September 4th. We are inviting other districts and community folks who have positions available to come to a fair that we will invite our staff to who have been impacted by the RIF to seek opportunities in neighboring counties, Forsyth Tech, Forsyth County. These are all folks who have responded that they will be attending that job fair. A couple of additional items that were part of the RIF that the board voted on. The reduction of months of employment to 10-month positions will begin communicated next week for the impacted employees at Central Services and in schools. The furlough plan will also be communicated next week to identified Central Services staff. Assistant principals, EC staff, and some other employees may be reassigned to new schools, classrooms, or departments, and schools will be communicating these changes to families. This is also a piece of the September 15th work date that's been requested. And during that time, then principals and department leaders in both Central Service and schools will be working on plans to reorganize, change service delivery, or reassign responsibilities. And I've talked already about the request for September 15th. In summary, The reduction in force was enacted due to financial need for the 25-26 budget. Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools, I, as the interim superintendent, must bring a balanced budget to the board for approval. So reductions have to be made in the 25-26 budget in order to balance that budget. And the reductions for fiscal year 25-26 are separate from the debt that is owed for fiscal year 24-25. So I just wanted to make those points. The next section, I'm amazed at how many questions I'm getting from folks about lottery funds. And so I thought, well, let me throw in a little bit of information there on lottery funds because folks want to know, how are we using the lottery funds? I don't think there is great understanding around how those funds are applied. So the net proceeds of the North Carolina Education Lottery, the portion that goes to education expenses, is used to reduce class size in early grades, to provide academic pre-K kindergarten programs, to support schools' construction needs, and scholarships for needy college and university students. All of those areas are areas that the lottery funds support. I'll tell you why school construction is in yellow in just a minute. Originally, when the lottery first came out, 30% of the lottery proceeds were required to go to education. But the legislator changed this requirement to a guideline in 2007. The funds that flow to through the county from the lottery are through the Public School Building Capital Fund. So the only funds that come from the lottery to Forsyth County are the funds in yellow, the school construction funds. Those are the only funds that come through to the county and then from the county to the school district. The other areas up there are part of our allotments and allocations that come from the state. Each year, the school system submits a letter to the county to jointly apply for the lottery proceeds, and that for the school construction. And then those funds are used to retire a portion of the debt that is incurred by the county for public school construction projects. So we don't get those dollars the way that people think we get them. The categories above are all allotments and formulas that come to us from the state. The section in yellow is a partnership with the county to use the school construction portion of lottery funds. And the money that we get for that is used to retire debt against the bonds that are issued. So a little bit more detail on the next page. When you look at the North Carolina Education Lottery website, $20 million went to education programs in Forsyth County in the year 23-24. That $20 million includes $4.2 million for school construction, the part that actually comes to the county, and then the school system and the county work together on. $13 million came for school staff. That's 62.6% of that. It can be found in our allotments for non-instructional support staff or pre-K in other areas. Well, pre-K, $1.6 million. $1.5 million, our students received $1.5 million in college scholarships from the lottery funds. And $495,000 was for school transportation from those lottery funds. So you see there the breakout of what happened to the $20 million that we received in 23-24, the last year for which full data is available. The total amount that Forsyth County has received since 2006, when the lottery was implemented, is $321.6 million. There are a number of attachments that are also in your Assembly, if you want to look at this item in Assembly and the agenda, that give you a lot more detail about what happens with the lottery funds. I just felt it was important to note that for folks that we don't get those funds the way people think we do. They come to us in positions and categories that are already allotted by the state, and only the school construction portion comes to the district, but it comes through the county, and it is used to retire debt. Questions?
Board Member Brown Gaither.
I want to thank you for explaining the lottery funds, because I've had a lot of constituents to ask me that, and I've always said it goes to the county to buy down our debt. So thank you so much for that. A portion of it. The second thing I wanted to ask, and this is based on what was presented to us last Tuesday. When I left the workshop on last Tuesday, we were given a schedule, an implementation schedule for RIF. And on that implementation schedule for RIF, it said that people who are going to be affected would start getting notified Monday, the 25th, to Friday, the 29th. And then when I started getting calls on Saturday that people were informed, and I was like, how did they get informed when it's not supposed to start till Monday? That's my question. Why did we put out an implementation schedule if we wasn't going to adhere to it?
I think there were some questions after the meeting around and working with folks on staging when it would go out and who checks email on the weekend, who doesn't check email on the weekend, how much time do we actually want to give folks to see it. We didn't send an email out till Monday, but we had meetings on Monday, that wasn't going to work. So we had to start sending them in order to start having the meetings on Monday. And so if we said that we would start sending Monday through Friday, we should have said that we were going to send the emails to start implementing the meetings Monday through Friday. And that is
that's
different.
Right. It's very different. So it caught us totally off guard, and it was something I could not explain, because what I went home on Tuesday thinking it totally changed,
Yeah.
and Friday letters started going out.
Yeah.
Board Member Watts?
Again, I just want to reiterate that we've got to make sure that we're accurate and we have compassion. My family in the early 80s were impacted with the RIF, and I'm still having scars from 1982. So my 87-year-old father still apologizes for us today about the RIF that happened in 1984. And so I have scars from a RIF. So please do all we can to make sure that we do it with compassion, with empathy, and if nothing else, we've got to get it right. Lives are impacted by this.
Thank you.
Board Member Kuhn and then Board Member Crowley.
Superintendent Moore, can you, I know that there's been a lot of mention about central office, and central office has been getting a lot of attention, that there's 600 people in there, and can you help differentiate, explain that not all 600 people are just sitting in an ivory tower, that these people are working and they're working with can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that number includes, I'm going to let Chris, if he wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about what that number includes. And I think that number is also from the spring, right?
Yes.
Because we don't have updated
That
org
number's-
charts available out there.
It is a little outdated, but it includes obviously central office administration, who most people think of, but it also includes your payroll staff, your HR staff, technology technicians, transportation mechanics would be in that, your transportation department, your corridor supervisors as such, mental health folks, some school nurses are central office based. There's 7 of them that will be on that payroll. There are some senior staffs, school-wide, there's 5 social workers or social work type roles that are central office based. Most are at schools now. ECFs, EC itinerant teachers, speech language pathologists, there's 100 there. Physical therapists, there's 6, I believe, and then some OT, occupational therapists. There's also some classified staff, such as speech language pathologist assistants. I could probably stand up for another 10 minutes, but there's a lot of roles.
But I do think to that point, though, we need to on the other side of this, update our org charts again and put the what do you call those things, the directories out there, and perhaps categorize our directories a little more clearly so that folks understand who is where.
I was just going to say, that was my other question, is org chart. When should we expect to maybe have one?
I think I'm going to speak without telling folks, without consulting with folks, but I think if, based on the timeline that we currently have for the changes that are being made, we should be able to get something out by the end of September, but because it has to be after September 12th, after we know where the other changes have happened at Central Services.
Board Member Crowley?
Yes, so about the lottery money, would you say that the lottery funds that were included in everything that wasn't school construction, would you say that displaced normally allocated funds, or did that provide additional funds?
So when the lottery was first implemented, one of the hallmarks of passing that legislation was that it would not supplant existing school funds. And by supplant, it means that it would be used to grow funding that was provided to schools, public schools, as opposed to taking current state funds and that were being supplied to schools and then putting that on lottery, freeing up state funds for other things. There are a number of areas within the current lottery proceeds to district that were previously on state funds. There are some that are new. K-3 class size legislation happened and lowered class size in K-3. And that wasn't done through state funds. It was done, the extra teachers that are needed to implement K-3 class size legislation came from lottery funds. But there are some funds for non-instructional support personnel that are in lottery funds that used to be in state funds, and they were moved to lottery funds. So, yes, some of that has happened.
And if I may, I have one more question. When you designated it was financial need for the RIF, isn't it also true that another reason is from declining student enrollment?
Those are two sides of a coin for me. The declining student enrollment and lack of adjustments made all along as that was happening caused us to be in a point where we are in dire financial need to make the reductions in order to bring a balanced budget.
Board Member Brown Gaither.
I want to revisit the org chart because I've been asking for one way before your time. In fact, I've been asking for one since November of 2022. And now we're all the way in August 2025. We have gotten, I think about 4 months ago, we got I don't even know what to call that, a skeletal org chart. And I asked at that point, could names be on it? It was just positions. I had no clue who was in the position or what fell under it. I had no clue. So I just want to emphasize, we need an org chart. It's very difficult when people address me and ask me questions. I don't know who to go to. I know I come to you. I understand that. I understand. I do come to you. But I mean, it still is a problem when somebody asks something specific and I cannot say, this is definitely under this person, under this particular department.
Right. And I mean, I can't speak for 2022, but the changes since I've been here, 2 sets now. One set right before I got here, and then another set now. You know, we were close to releasing revised charts a few weeks ago, and then as stuff started coming down in July, we started thinking about what might need to happen next. That decided to wait and see what would happen.
Vice Chair Bohannon.
So I want to go back to the comments you made sort of about the reduction in force and what was the precipitant of that. Most notably because a couple of people during public comments asked this, and in last week's meeting this was also asked, where people kind of are asking the sort of same question about why didn't we do this over the summer when it would have been a little bit cleaner.
Yes, it would have.
I think, and I think we all, 'cause I also think that for obvious reasons, that would have given us a little bit more runway. People would have been able to manage that better. Could you talk a little bit about why we had to do it when we did it?
The three primary drivers of needing to reduce the current year 25-26 budget were all things that happened at the end of June or in July. And they include the decision of the board to appropriate $5 million worth of fund balance in arrears that wasn't taken into consideration when the budget was built moving forward. So once you appropriate $5 million, anytime you appropriate fund balance to your local operating budget, You either appropriate $5 million worth of fund balance every year to keep it whole, you find $5 million worth of new money from somewhere to fill that hole, or you make reductions of $5 million, or some combination thereof. So that appropriation didn't happen till the end of June. And then in July, we received some initial allotments from DPI, which happens after they do their planning allotments. Those allotments in July were reduced by about $5 million. We talked about that a little bit today in Finance Committee. And then our federal carryover, which we couldn't determine until after June 30th was over, was $8 million less. So those numbers and amounts weren't known to us until after June 30th. And so now we have to bring adjustments to our 25-26 budget to adjust downward based on those reductions.
Board Member Crowley?
Yes, in thinking about the RIF schedule, when will alternative licensed teachers be notified? Because I don't know that they were on the original schedule.
You're correct, they were not on the original schedule because that was, and based on feedback from the board. Right now, where we're meeting with district staff tomorrow. We met with principals today, assistant principals today, and got their preferred certification areas. So we can now use that data to determine the alternative licensed persons who will be displaced. So they can expect notification either Wednesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon to meet with the following day.
Board Member Kuhn?
Superintendent Moore, can you, this kind of goes to what Alex asked about. It's the reason why we couldn't delay, like why we didn't have time to pause and ask questions and go through and do things differently.
I think that the bottom line is, as terrible as this is, the sooner we do it, the less we have to do in order to meet the objective of at least $18 million in reductions. Because $18 million is the amount that I've talked about, the reductions from DPI, the $8 million carryover that's reduced, and the fund balance allocation. That comes up to $18 million. So in order to balance the budget, we've got to reduce by $18 million. The longer you wait, the more people it takes to get to that. So the sooner you make that reduction, the fewer people that are impacted when you're considering a reduction in force.
Vice Chair Bohannon?
You also had mentioned, though, about the potential for us to not meet payroll, like all of payroll.
Well, I mean, that is correct. It is a dire situation. We were watching it carefully for August, and by the end of September, and definitely by October, we do not have enough funds to meet our obligations.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. We are now moving into our consent agenda. Board Member Wood?
Madam Chair, thank you. I would like to request or make a motion that we move under consent agenda items, item 8B, consider approval of contract with Summit Search Solutions, the superintendent search firm, that we move that out from the consent agenda on item B and move it to action items section C.
Okay, so there is a motion to amend the agenda to move consent item B to action item C. That will require a 2/3 vote. So I have that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor to move it to action items for discussion? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? The motion passes to move it to the action item for discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Board.
You're welcome. So we are now looking at our consent agenda item. We have 5 items in our slate to consider. consider approval of the MOA with Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools and Winston-Salem Symphony Partnership briefed at the August 12th, 2025 Board of Education meeting. Next, consider approval of the ERG contract for East Forsyth Middle School. Consider approval of the July 29th, 2025 special called Board of Education meeting minutes. Consider approval of the August 12th, 2025 Board of Education meeting minutes. Consider approval of the general personnel report. Do I have a motion to approve the slate of consent agenda items?
Move to approve.
Second.
I only need a motion. So that motion is by Board Member Crowley. All in favor? Thank you. That passes unanimously. Moving on to our action items. Consider approval of the selection of construction manager at risk for Ashley Elementary project and fee for project estimation services. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Barr, and I have a second by Board Member Brown Gaither. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? So motion passes 7-2. Next, consider approval of the calendar change request. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
So I have a motion by Board Member Kuhn. I have a second by Vice Chair Bohannon. Any discussion?
We're talking about option B, right?
Right, that's what I was.
Because there's
Correct.
not a.
Correct, option B.
Not in here, okay.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you. That also passes unanimously. Next action item, which was on our consent agenda item, consider approval of the contract with Summit Search Solutions, superintendent search firm. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
So I have a motion by Board Member Crowley. I have a second by Board Member Kuhn. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Yes. Yes, Board Member Watts.
Board Chair, would you please share with the public that we received some good news on the funding source?
Yes, we did. We heard yesterday from the Winston-Salem Foundation that we are going to receive $40,000 to assist us in this superintendent search firm, which is very good news. Do I have any other discussion? Yes, Board Member Wood?
Thank you, my board members, for supporting the motion to move this for this item for some discussion. Just so that the public at large is aware, the recommendation by not just a plurality, but a majority of the board in the consideration of the various groups to assist us with the search for a superintendent. The vote was greatly in favor in terms of the numbers, greatly in favor of the North Carolina School Boards Association to assist us with that. And just so that voters know and the public knows, the proposal of the contract from the School Boards Association was roughly $20,000. The proposal from the Summit Group was over twice that figure. So just so that the board and is aware of that, and the public is aware of that, that's so we could have a little bit of discussion to shine a little bit of light on that. When we vote for this approval, I mean, we're in a pretty serious fiscal crisis. So I'm looking at a board member to save every dollar, every penny, every dollar that we can. So from that standpoint, I will not be I did not support this motion before, and I will not be supporting this motion tonight.
Board Chair, may I respond to Steve Wood?
Yes.
Wait a minute, I asked first.
Go ahead, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir, ma'am.
I just want to point out, and I think we said this in the last meeting, the North Carolina School Board Association was also the ones that brought our last superintendent here. That was one of the reasons we did not go with them. The other reason was because our board chair sits on the board for them. And we thought it would be a conflict of interest, and that's why we were suggested to go with Summit.
Yes,
Madam Chair.
Board Member Crowley?
Yeah, I think that, well, Board Member Wood is correct in that North Carolina School Board Association came out when we used they came out on top when we were looking at the rubric. But I know for me, part of the selection process was the rubric, but another big part was the interview. And to me, it was night and day on the interview as far as the qualifications and just even being able to speak the language and their track record. So while I think they were, North Carolina School Board Association was the top score on the rubric, I don't think that was the only component to everybody's decision. Or it wasn't the only component for mine. I heavily weighed the interview.
Board Member Watts, did you have something you wanted to say?
So the foundation gave 40,000
40,000.
to cover practically 99% of the search request. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Vice Chair Bohanna?
Yeah, I just, since everybody's talking about why they voted for it, I'll just add my 2 cents. So I'm an HR professional by trade. I think that when we took a look at the qualifications between both of the entities, beyond sort of what are the things that my colleagues mentioned, the other thing that I considered was the North Carolina School Board Association does a lot of searches within our state for superintendents. And so a lot of times when you hire a firm, you know, if I'm a superintendent that recently was placed in the last couple of years and the North Carolina School Board Association did my search, I may not apply if they're trying to do another search because they just placed me, you know, in the district where I'm at. And Summit has done less of superintendent searches within the state, but they've done them for relatively large counties, most notably Guilford County, which sits right next door to us. And those references were really good about that search. And then also they have actual HR practitioners that are part of their staff, which are extremely important because it's a good thing to actually kind of have people who know what they're talking about and have had experience, especially being in HR for a school system. So that was what was attractive to me. And I'm appreciative that the Winston-Salem Foundation was able to provide us some assistance because there was a sizable cost difference between the two.
Any other? Yes. Board Member Wood? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just relative to the argument about the School Boards Association involvement with regards to the last superintendent, and if they were influential in recommending or in the search, were successful in the recommending a search, I know at least 2 members of this board have made that statement about it, but I know at least 99% of this board voted for that superintendent.
It was actually
So-
one previous
It was
to
the-
Superintendent
it was Angela
McManus. It was previous to her.
What are we trying, is the point of this to try to overturn the decision for the superintendent search? Because in other discussions and issues, we vote and the vote's done and we don't get to come back and rehash it and say things because I don't agree with a lot of things, but I don't get back up here and try to turn it over because it's not the board's job to do that. So I guess I'm just trying to get at what we're trying to do with this. Or is it to overturn Summit, or is it just to talk about how you don't like what we did?
Well, I would just say as a point of order, this item is to approve the contract. So we approved last week, we selected the firm, but this is to approve the contract. So the clarification is, just to be fair, it was placed on action for discussion. We're discussing, there will be a vote, and then that'll be the final decision. But I think we can kind of I think people can voice their opinions one way or the other.
Exactly. Any other discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that point of clarification. And thank the board for supporting to move it to a single action vote. I, for one, as a board member, did not want to vote against all of those other items, but it did give some of us the opportunity. And this discussion, this debate is simply part of that debate relative to that. So I thank the board for their vote.
Yes. So we have a motion and we have a second. I will read the action item once more. Consider approval of the contract with Summit Search Solutions, superintendent search firm. All in favor? Opposed? So the motion passes 6-3. September 9th will be our next regular meeting of the Board of Education. Before we begin our public comment period, let me say to our Cable 2 viewers, thank you for watching. This will conclude our broadcast.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.